During the engage phase, we attempted to capture the students' interests and their prior knowledge about the weather. We went for a walk around the school using cardboard frames for students to create a snapshot of the weather, focusing on its features. The students then represented what they had seen in their science journals. We then conducted a postbox activity where students expressed their interests, and this then guided our teaching of the unit.
Leading into the explore phase, we introduced symbols and their global use, then decided on a class set to represent different weather types. Next, we created a whole class weather watch table where the students would use the chosen weather symbols to record the weather conditions observed each day. To support the development of observational skills and appropriate language use to describe the sky and clouds, we took the students outside again using the frames to make observations about the sky, focusing on the clouds and their features. We conducted experiments and used videos to explain to the students how clouds are formed, what they are made of, and then developed an understanding of the water cycle. We chose this task as our jewel as we were truly surprised by how well each student understood the water cycle and were able to explain it to us and each other so clearly and confidently. This was well beyond our expectations. When we collected student feedback at the end of the unit, the water cycle was the most popular piece of information that the students had learnt.
Down here it's raining and it's getting collected in the ground, and then when the sun comes up, it evaporates the water and makes it go into the sky and makes a cloud, and then it starts raining and it starts all over again.
To provide students with an understanding of temperature and its parts in the daily weather, we held a discussion with the students about what temperature is, what words we use to describe the different ranges, and how it affects the weather around them. We created a temperature line where the students had different words and had to organise themselves in order from hot to cold. To investigate the 4 seasons, their similarities and differences, we integrated the following lessons into the literacy block and used appropriate text to elicit students' thinking about the characteristics of each season. Each season lesson included a brainstorm of what they already knew, further discussion about weather features, appropriate activities and clothing students would wear and take part in each season, encouraging the students to make connections with their everyday lives. Students took part in writing and craft activities to express their ideas, creating a class display which highlighted the characteristics of each season. This was also integrated into maths lessons where students learned about sequencing the year.
To reflect on and finalise the students' understanding of each season, we conducted a game of Pass the Parcel. In each layer was the season-specific image, and each student had a turn of identifying their image, grouping it with its matching season and explaining their answer.
Well, I get a snowflake and it's going winter because winter's very cold.
To summarise the content that had been taught so far and to ensure students were developing a sound knowledge of the weather, we conducted a classroom walk for students to revisit the displays they had created and then share in a circle one piece of information they had learnt so far. And we asked students to write any questions they had about these topics or any other weather information and deliver to the postbox. We ensured we addressed their questions by the end of the unit. Students completed a Weather and Me worksheet to summarise and represent their observations of weather and identify suitable clothing and activities for various weather conditions.
To begin our investigation of the wind, we conducted a brainstorm about the wind and gathered the students' thoughts about what it is and where it comes from. The students needed a lot more explanation than expected, which led us to run a full activity about the wind cycle before conducting our investigation.
Well, there's some ones up, cool air, and then the warm hair goes up, and then the cool hair comes over and takes its spots in.
Students designed and created wind meters in pairs to investigate different wind strengths around the school, making predictions, testing their theories, and identifying possible reasons for why it was different.
Coming to the end of the unit, we moved into connecting our understanding of the weather and putting it into the context of our everyday lives. We invited a local CFA member into the class to explain to the students how the weather affects his job. Students asked prepared questions to gain a deeper understanding of this concept. Students started to think about how the weather affects their own lives.
We asked students to think of other jobs that would be affected by the weather and how. Students were able to explain how it affects their own chores at home and completed a written response to this question. We also spoke about other roles weather can play in a variety of occupations. To provide opportunities for students to reflect on their learning in this unit, we set them the task of creating a weather report. These had to include information about the cloud cover, wind, rain, temperature, clothing and activities. Students planned, rehearsed, then recorded their reports, which were combined and presented to the class and their families on the last day.
Hello and welcome to today's weather. You are here with Rose Hail and Billy Storm.
The only limitation we encountered was the realisation at the very beginning of the unit that the students were seeking more information than expected for their level. We had not planned for this level of content, so I had to reassess the following lessons to better suit the students' interests to gain a deeper understanding of the weather and the science behind it. After reconstructing our plans, it seems evident from class discussion, assessment tasks and student feedback that the students were satisfied with our unit and enjoyed learning about the weather as it is so relevant to their everyday lives. They were able to use their knowledge to answer their own post-book questions from the beginning of the unit, which showed to us we had met their needs. If we were to do it again, the only thing we would change is how concrete we had our plans, as it sometimes proved difficult to make amendments to better suit the students' needs and classroom timetable restraints.